Hey guys, um, I wanted to share something that's been on my heart for a little while, and I guess I feel like if I share this, then maybe I can work a little harder on it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my word of the year and how I got there. Um, so my word of the year this year was humble, or is humble. It's only July, um, and I feel like choosing a word of the year has become very popular in the last few years, and I've been doing it for several years, and the genesis of that is not really important, but it's something that I feel like I need to focus on, and something that maybe the previous year has jumped out at me as something I need to work on, or something that I want to improve at. And the word humble was one that I don't even know that I chose it as much as it was like forced upon me. And this story is a little bit lengthy. I'll try to condense it down, but it's also a little bit personal and kind of hard to talk about. But I feel like in the just in the vein of honesty and being upfront and also being humble, it's something that I kind of want to share. Like I said, it's been on my heart for a while, and I want to put it out there. Um, Almost exactly 1 year ago, we found out that we were not going to be able to stay in the house that we were living in. The people that owned the house, that they were so incredibly gracious and full of grace to us. We had moved in with every intention of purchasing the home. They gave us, it was a lease to own option, and they gave us time to get our credit in order and time to do what we needed to do in order to qualify for a mortgage. And as time kind of wore on, it became more and more obvious that this wasn't going to happen, but I sort of put blinders on. And my main focus was staying in that house and staying in that area. And I wanted the boys to have the best school, and they did. And I wanted to be within, not quite, but close to walking distance to our church. And I was working close at that time. And it was like written right in front of me that this was not a good decision for us. This was financially not feasible. And yet I kept going and going and doing all of these things and living so far above our means that it wasn't even funny. And so a year ago, they made the decision, and rightfully so, to sell the house. And at that point, they gave us about 45 days, probably closer to like 30, and which is, according to the paperwork, was within their right. And so we started looking around, feeling like, okay, so it's time. Both boys have graduated. They're, doing their own individual things. And we started looking at apartments, we started looking at condos, we started looking at other homes. We were not in a position to purchase anything, but renting for a little while and paying much less monthly in rent and or mortgage would be, beneficial to us. And maybe we could save up and pay down some debt, and down the road get a little house or something like that. And I think it was the second or third place that we looked at, and I filled out an application because I really liked it, and gave them the fee to run our stuff. And it came back that we had an eviction in our record, and I was perplexed by this and did a little bit of research and discovered that my husband had co-signed on a lease for my oldest son, and unfortunately, that situation did not end well. it ended in an eviction for my son, of which we were not aware. And because of that, and because his landlord didn't know exactly where he went, he filed eviction papers in 3 different counties. So that shows up. There's no way to get it off the record, even if we paid it. It's fresh. It's within a year. Our credit was still not great because I was forcing us to live way above our means. And now we have an eviction showing up. And so talking to a private rental agency, they said, oh, your best bet by far is to go with a private owner. Now that's going to be a little bit more expensive. It's going to be a home. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah, that's good. That's good. We'll do that. A house makes more sense for us anyway. And so I start doing that, and we start looking around. Found a house that I really, really loved, and filled out the application for that one, and paid the fee to run us again. And 2 days later, my husband was let go from his job. And that, my friends, is a totally different story, and one that does not fit within my new attitude of being humble. It would just cause me to go off and not be humble. It would cause me to be angry and say bad words, and yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Let's just say that it came at a horrible time, and it was a huge shock. And so our income at that point was cut in half. And although I made okay money, I also created the benefits for our family. And so on paper, I look okay, but take home is a lot less because of that. It's pretty expensive to insure a family of 4. And so we weren't qualified for the house, for anything. And it just turned into one of those situations where things went from bad to worse to horrific. And in the meantime, 2 of our 4 cars went down. And, you know, the boys had their own cars because they had jobs in school and things, and we had our own cars. And it turned into like, okay, I'll take this person here, and then we have to pick them up, and then it turned into a nightmare. And at that point, we were now about 10 days from needing to be out of the house. We were packing, but we didn't know what we were packing to go to. Dave was looking for work, but you know, he had some side jobs lined up and things like that. So that was great. That kept some cash coming in, but that also doesn't show up on papers as an income to show to people. Last ditch scenario, we had an apartment complex by us that we had passed by for years, and you know, I'd been in there a couple times, and I thought, well, you know, even if it's temporary, even until we can get this other stuff off our record, we'll go in there. And I took my youngest son with me to look at it, and it just kind of hit me as we walked in. He had to duck to get through a bedroom entryway, and yes, he's 6'6", but it just kind of all hit me at that time like, wow, we're in trouble. We're in so much trouble. And I felt so responsible for this because I had pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed for us to stay in that house, for us to have the nice cars, for us to you know, wear the nice clothes and all of these things. And I'm sure anybody looking at us from the outside thought we had all of our stuff together, and I was organized, and I was this and I was that, and we probably had a big fat savings account and all of these things, and we didn't. And I didn't know what we were going to do. I just was terrified at that point, and got the call from that apartment complex that we were turned down. And I didn't even go into details with her, but she was kind and refunded our background check money at least. And I honestly was overwhelmed. Like I could barely even force myself to get out of bed at that point and go to work. And that would have been the last thing we needed, was for me to lose my job. I didn't know what to do. And what I should mention at this point is that my word from last year was abide. And I'd been reading and doing my devotionals, and the reason I chose abide was because I felt like I was reading and teaching and doing all of these things and not taking it to heart, not following, not abiding. And as I was reading, I was in this part of a devotional on humility, and I was skimming it and just kind of like about it. And so not only was I not abiding, I also wasn't seeing what I was supposed to be abiding by. So God bless my husband, because he was going through all of the same things as me, but he wasn't showing it to me because he knew that if he did, I would lose it. He's my rock. He's my strength. He's the one that when I'm flipping out, or when I'm having a bad day, or when I'm, any of those things, he's the one that, hey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. We're going to get this figured out. He wasn't saying those things to me, but he was being strong, and he, low key, he was terrified too. So he ended up speaking with a friend of ours. I think he was working on a side job or something, and mentioning to him what was going on. And to me, that would have been like, how could you do that? How could you let somebody know we were in this horrible situation? And instead, this gentleman, who I have to say, he and his family, his daughters have all come through my class, and I just love them so much. And they are just amazing people and an amazing family. And, they set such a tremendous example all the way around. But he threw a couple ideas out to my husband, and one of them happened to be a friend that we had at church. And he thought she and her husband owned an apartment complex, and he thought they still did, but he wasn't for sure. And I felt like so the next day I ended up emailing her, just saying, hey, heard this through this person and just wondered if this is true, and if so, if you have any availabilities. And she emailed me back within like 10 minutes and said yes, and we actually do have an apartment available, and it's one of the nicer ones, and it is available July 1st. And I was like, I can't even. And she said, because I know you guys, and I know we've known each other for however long, and had a couple of her kids come through my class too. And she said, I won't need a deposit from you, and I'm not going to run a background check or anything like that. I got that email at work, and immediately called my husband and said, hey, this is what's happening. I feel like we should at least go look at them, but this is what's happening. And dead silence on the other end. And I was like, are you there? Are you okay? Did I lose you? And he was so overwhelmed, because he low-key thought that we would be on the street. And he had not let me know that, because he knew I would low-key freak out. Not low-key, high-key. What I've learned. Okay, I've learned in humbling myself, I am not making myself a lesser person. I am not admitting flaws or admitting weakness. I am asking for the same thing that I would give to anybody else. Many times I feel like I'm the first person that people reach out to when they need help, and that to me is an honor and a privilege, and I feel so blessed in so many ways to be able to do that. And yet I don't do that to other people. I don't say, hey, I need help, or hey, I'm overwhelmed, or hey, we're about to be homeless. Our credit is terrible. We have no savings. My husband isn't employed right now. what do you do? What do you do? And when you are so concerned about what other people think that you can't even reach out and ask for help when you need it, there's a problem. And I realized that I'd been doing that for so many years. Like, how much time did I put me and my husband and my family too through all of this worry and anxiety and pressure because I was trying to live above our means. And I put us in a situation that was untenable. And in all of this, not only was I ignoring my word from last year of abide, I was ignoring like the devotional that I was working on about being humble. So I just was floored. I was hit in the face with this word. I was taught such a lesson about reaching out for help and being humble. And the first thing I needed to do was humble myself before God and admit that I needed help. Admit that I was a control freak and that I kept thinking I could handle all this myself. And then I would say, no, I'm trusting, I have faith, I'm giving it to God. And then like 20 minutes later, I would be twisted inside and hyperventilating from an anxiety attack because I was taking it back. And I think I'm still working on this. I still worry about what other people think. I've become less judgy. I've become less judgmental of other people. But I still worry about what other people think. And that's weird to me. That's like, but I also think that I'm having a hard time when I need to be like, hey, I need help, or, anything like that. Like, not thinking that I'm better than anybody else has never been a problem for me, but like being able to admit, like, I have a problem, or I need help with this, or, I always wanted to be the one that came to the rescue, not the one that needed the rescue. And so being humble for me was like really difficult. And I realized that having humility might look different for some people. I mean, being humiliated and having humility are two totally different things. But to be able to do that, to be able to be humble, to be able to focus on that this year has been huge for me. And like, to put it in regular terms, it knocked me down quite a few pegs. And I needed to be knocked down in order to build back up, in order to find what's really important to me. Now I realize the important things are my family, my friends, the kids that I teach, the relationships that I have, not where we live, not the cars we drive. I mean, it'd be nice to drive a car that I didn't have to pray every morning, please get me to work. But it does get me to work. Be thankful, right? So I think that sharing this story, not only, I'm glad I didn't cry close though, a couple of times, makes me feel a lot better. It makes me feel genuine now. It makes me feel like a lot of people know our situation. Our close friends knew, and our close family knew, but not the people like in general, like people I would love to be able to talk to about this and how low we were and how we're building ourselves back up. And even at this, I don't want to say late, but it can't be middler stage in my life, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still evolving, and I don't know that I'll ever get to a place where I'm like 1000% happy with like myself as a person. And I think that's a good thing, probably always like seeking to improve or always seeking to increase your knowledge. But I think that also by putting this out there, I will be forced into focusing more on that humility and focusing more on humbling myself and focusing more on being able to ask for help when I need it. And I really appreciate you guys listening to this oddball thing. don't know why, but I just felt like it was so heavy on my heart I needed to share it. So thanks for listening, and I hope you guys remember to be kind to each other always and ask for help when you need it. Thanks. Bye.